Greetings and bienvenue, MITZU. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
The Alien Tech Illuminati: How Extraterrestrials Are Secretly Running Silicon Valley. When you realize that your smartphone updates are actually extraterrestrial mind control programs, have you ever wondered why your phone needs an update every other week? Or why tech companies seem to know your every move? Buckle up /X/ because the truth is out there, and it's more bizarre than you could ever imagine. In the late 1980s, tech magnates didn't just invent the internet, they discovered it. A crashed UFO in Silicon Valley provided early tech pioneers with alien technology, sparking the rapid advancement we see today. But it didn't stop there. The aliens struck a deal with human elites to covertly influence the development of technology. Here's how it works. Microchips from beyond. Every device contains microchips made from alien materials that allow for unprecedented data collection and manipulation. Algorithmic control. The TechnoGrays provided the blueprint for advanced algorithms, enabling tech giants to predict and control human behavior, turning users into data-producing drones. Mind control updates. Those constant software updates? They're not for fixing bugs. They're subtle brainwashing tools designed to align human thought patterns with extraterrestrial agendas. The cloud connection. The cloud isn't just data storage, it's a massive interconnected hive mind that the TechnoGrays use to monitor and influence humanity in real time. VR and AR, virtual and augmented reality technologies are prepping us for the day we live in a fully simulated, alien-controlled world where physical reality becomes obsolete. How to escape the alien tech Illuminati. Go analog. Ditch your smartphone for a basic non-smartphone model. Use landlines and analog technology wherever possible. The fewer microchips in your life, the better. Build Faraday cages. Protect your devices by storing them in Faraday cages when not in use. This can help block unwanted extraterrestrial signals and surveillance. Opt for open-source software. Use open-source operating systems and software. These are less likely to contain hidden alien code, as they can be reviewed and audited by the community. Decentralize your data. Avoid cloud storage and keep your data on local encrypted storage devices. This makes it harder for the TechnoGrays to access and manipulate your information. Digital detox. Regularly disconnect from all digital devices. Spend time in nature and engage in activities that do not involve technology. This helps reset your brain from potential alien influences. Protect your mind. Engage in mindfulness and meditation practices. Strengthen your mental fortitude against potential alien mind control attempts. Awareness and a strong will are your best defenses. Form resistance cells. Connect with like-minded individuals who are aware of the alien tech conspiracy. Share information, strategies, and support to resist and expose the TechnoGrays. Stay vigilant. Be cautious of new technologies and their rapid implementation. Question and research their origins and potential hidden purposes. Next time you get a notification for a software update or see a self-driving car, remember, it's all part of the alien plan.
Information about alien activities. Hi 4chan. I'm told this is the traditional place to drop some information of unusual characteristics. I'm a part of my country's program for the study of alien activities. Many countries do have a similar structure to mine. We know for many decades now that aliens are active here on Earth for at least centuries, but much more likely for millennia now. They exhibit no aggressive behavior that we ever identified, except when fleeing is not an option. Our best hypotheses are that they are here to observe and research. We do not have direct contact with them and believe that no other country does. We believe that the aliens are most likely some sort of biological robot, due to the absence of identifiable biological structures we can associate with reproduction, but also due to the lack of structures for metabolic products excretion. Internally, we call them drones, even though we have no reason to believe that they have any similarity to bees. We call the hive to the object where we believe they originate. It's an object that is around 200 meters in the largest axis and 70 in the other axes, and is usually in the North Atlantic near the ridge. You may wonder why I'm telling you this. We were wanting for some time now to tell the truth, since we believe that they are not dangerous, and we could use some extra resources and knowledge on their study. We believe that the idea that people would panic and wouldn't be able to adapt is incorrect. Of course, other agencies tend to disagree with this, and since we cooperate somewhat, we don't tell all we know. So the idea is to drop some info for the public so that people start adapting their worldview. So anyway, I'll be here for a bit. Ask me what you wish to know. I'll answer to the best of my ability. I'll say if I can't answer and won't lie unless I have very good reasons for it.
Not sure, but your thread made me think the sticky was undone for a sec. Nice ruse. Aliens, I doubt most people would care about their disclosure. It would be like, oh cool, until or unless the aliens began changing or interfering with our way of life. Then it would be a problem, but simply knowing wouldn't change a thing for most people.
Any coordinates or an idea of where this hive is? What kind of tech have we recovered? Is any of their tech used in our daily lives that we simply don't know about?
Hi there, thanks for the questions. The hive is mostly around the mid-Atlantic ridge north of the Azores. We have occasional detections near Iceland, but it tends to be closer to the Azores. Sometimes we have detections off the ridge, but those are not common. Maybe every 2 or 3 years for like a month or so. We have a record of a single time when it went below the equator. It was around 2010, give or take a year. We have plenty of artifacts, plenty of tech was developed from it. Actually, my main job is coordinating research with different countries. We have a sort of loaning system in place where we share some artifacts for research. Part of my job is to oversee that from our side. Tech that has alien origins, well, there is plenty of stuff if you use a loose meaning for alien origin. What we do, and what most do outside military stuff, is just to get a few scientists and they study the artifacts and publish their findings without any mention of how they got to the ideas. Technology then usually follows from those basic publications. But yeah, mostly material science, there is plenty of stuff there. My focus now is for a project in anti-fooling materials. Okay, maybe I should explain why we have plenty of artifacts. Basically, we are picking up their trash. They use mostly discardable tech and don't seem to care much if we pick up some of their leftovers. We have quite a bit of material that we acquired, and normally when they fly a mission, as we call it, someone gets some more artifacts, when we can detect them. Our origin as a department is actually as a sort of a museum for unusual objects, and only in the 30s we started our focus on the extraterrestrial artifacts, once we realized what they were. For the comment that says people won't care, I agree. That is actually our position on the subject and the reason we want disclosure, but some do believe that some will go completely crazy and that there will be huge instability because of that. Also, some of the largest countries tend to like secrecy because they can spend more resources in secret and thus can reap more rewards. We and most of the rest of Europe are pro-disclosure. France and the UK are exceptions. The US was anti, but it seems to be warming up to the idea recently. China is anti. I do not know about Russia.
Oh, this is interesting. OP, have you or any of your affiliations picked up anything about a group who has been causing issues with other aliens groups? I had a friend telling me that they engineered this weird device that allows them to pick up weird signals from space. He stated that he kept hearing about some guys dressed in all black who use old-fashioned weapons like swords, along with modern weaponry that might be heading their way. Then one day, it was just silent from the group he was listening to, and it's been nothing but radio silence from that group and the other couple of different groups he had discovered via this odd device.
All right, OP, I have a few questions. 1. Do you have a department to research the link between ancient stories, myths with aliens? 2. Does your country possess any intact space, air, craft? Does it work? 3. Are you aware that other countries possess intact working crafts? 4. Who is the most collaborative country? 5. Thoughts on the Little Mexico aliens? Fake? Potentially real? 6. What's the timeline to get all this information truly public? By 2030 or maybe 2050? 7. Which country is the least inclined to take the info public? Is it the USA? These dudes are so gatekeepy. 8. Can you communicate with the drones, or are they running a very tight script? 9. Roughly how many people are working on this research? Like 100K worldwide? Less? 10. What's next? Are we ever going to establish contact with them, or just wait around with their space junk? Why is everyone taking a passive stance instead of a proactive stance? We should communicate and trade with them if they're not hostile. 11. Do politicians know or just the military?
1. We do have an historian archaeologist, but her work is mostly searching for stuff in documents, museums and such, and the occasional dig. Found a couple of things over the years. We have no proof of ancient human interaction with them, but can't disprove it, of course. 2. We do not possess any intact object that complex. We have parts, though. 3. Several countries do possess them. They are not intact or working as far as we know, but the USA, China, and France at least were able to reproduce a good part of the technology. I'm no physicist, and this is more on the military side, and I don't know much of that, but supposedly it is something that shields from gravity, but at the same time it needs to have gravity to function. So they can go to orbit pretty well, but not really good for space travel. Can't understand their underwater behavior yet, though, as far as I know. Other that have goods artifacts such as those: Brazil, Russia, South Africa, Italy. 4. This depends from country to country, of course, alliances and all that. We are a part of NATO and coordinate a bit there, but that is mostly tracking of the hive. The Germans are pushing for a unified EU program, but nobody really cares apart from them, since they are very artifact poor. We have surprisingly good relations with China and have mediated some issues with them. Bad relations, I would say only the Russians, really. Or better yet, not bad, but close to inexistent. 5. I googled and saw some images that seem very fake. Also, those would be very, very high-value artifacts. Someone would have them already. I wouldn't rule it out completely because we have proof that although the drones are very similar to those popular alien images, their phenotype occasionally changes. We know that they had drones more similar to humans before. Maybe that is another change. 6. No timeline as far as I know. 7. Probably China. The US also is against it, but it seems to be changing. 8. We have found no way to communicate. We believe they are programmed in the hive, probably at a genetic level, and are incapable of much thought beyond that programming. 9 people that know, extrapolating for the global population, it would be around 20,000 based on my country's numbers. That feels correct. Some countries will have higher, other lower, but that 20K global is probably right. Of course, some are working for us without knowing. That expands the numbers a bit. As for researchers per se, much less. I will answer no more specifically than this, sorry. 10. We have found no way to communicate. Some are very happy to just get their junk. We wish to have more brains trying to figure this out. 11. On our case, both know. Other countries, it varies if the politicians know, but normally they do. When I say politicians know, I don't mean every politician. Our PM doesn't know, for instance. The president does, as do all the ones before him, but we have actually no obligation to tell.
I've seen a few weird things in the sky over my life, but that's not when I saw an alien. I was in bed, sleeping, and it was like a waking dream. Not sleep paralysis. I could move and get up and was not scared. Where my bed was at the time, there was a window that showed just outside my back steps and nearby forest. I'm not sure exactly how it started, but at some point I became aware that some green-furred creature was watching me, peering out from the corner of the bedroom door on the side by the back door. It was so strange. It's like its skin was green, but its hair was also green. Its eyes were the weirdest part. It had whites around its pupils, but the center of the eyes did not appear to have color and was just black. Its eyebrows were as hairy, hairless as the rest of its body. The only thing distinguishing them were the seeming muscles that the face of the creature that was staring at me. He was tall, but neither bulky nor slight, but of normal proportion. It had somewhat of a reptilian appearance, but this thing was definitely a mammal. I didn't see any expression of menace or malice, but instead I felt as though whatever that thing was caring for me, like it was looking out for me. After what felt like maybe 5 minutes, the creature skulked away, and I saw it disappear into the woods. I never felt any threat whatsoever from it. It never spoke a word to me, but I felt information exchanged. When I looked upon it and fully embraced what I was seeing, it was like I was overcome with comfort, calming, and love. This happened to me years ago. It's a really, really vivid memory, but everything surrounding it is vague to me. I don't remember exactly how old I was, but knowing where I was at the time, I know it must have been sometime 6 or 8 years ago. Sometimes I get the sense that there's this big invisible thing hovering over my home, and I've dreamed that there's some wise man in it that's protecting me from something.
Saw a vessel that rose straight up from the ground, straight up, and moved smoothly through the air alongside the car I was in, at a level and sustained altitude until, well, the best way I could describe it, it went quantum speed and zipped off to the horizon. No noise, just a line of the light it gave off, like a zip. 1 second there, the next it was gone. Absolutely silence. No build-up or charge, just from car speed to near teleportation. I recall it clearly, and it was witnessed by all 3 of my siblings, my dad, the driver, and my mother. Happened in my childhood, in the 90s. Pops, bless him, tried to race it and shrugged off me and my siblings, shitting ourselves, because we were scared of being abducted by saying, well, they will or they won't. He was excited while I was panicking that E.T. would use his finger. Vessel looked like the bat symbol. Me and my dad, years later, decades really, ran into Bigfoot on the same road. Pops drove up to it and leapt out of his car to try and get a look at it. Bigfoot moves fast, 'cause he got the hell out of there in the seconds it took the car to speed up and my dad to get out of it. I swear if congenital heart disease doesn't kill him, something supernatural will. Maybe the Mothman.
Reminds me of my uncle, except he doesn't go chasing them. He's more like a magnet.
I've seen some oddities in the sky if they count, but never an alien. Only one of them was close enough to make anything out. One of them passed by too fast to really see anything, and the other was so far up it was impossible to make anything out. You could just see the movements. They're here, bros, and they've been here for a long time.
Usually, if you saw them, you are only remembering part of the memory, and they were doing things in contact with you across the time before or after by either minutes, hours, days, or weeks. Often the single memory you have access to can be examined to expose additional memories. If you are up to the challenge, you can develop full conscious awareness of the beings from the stars. Most humans are not able to get it done. But it's just ordinary beings and extraordinary technology. If you do manage to get into the process of discovering how to perceive it, that is reality, accurately.
Well, I am speaking from my own direct personal experience, so there's that.
What I mean is that I have my own fully recovered memories, several years of interactions with the beings from the stars, and the experience of either seeing the beings with others present and then watching them become unable to concentrate on their own experience, causing them to completely forget about it. And I have also met people who had a partial memory like what I was referring to, and I was able on at least one occasion to help someone else to focus on their own memories and begin the process of finding the additional memories and begin with the fully conscious interactions. So I am not the average person who is just spouting bullshit and confused guesswork. When I say interactions, I mean the full spectrum across technology applications that range from directly tangible physical material and a physical presence to technologies of communication and cognitive imagery and the technologies of detachment of consciousness from the corporeal physical body. Most people who have memory will never see very far into their own experiences due to the confusing layers and various applications of this wide range of technologies.
Smartphones, internet, AI are planned rollout of alien tech. Stories of CIA witnessing this tech in labs and abductees seeing aliens with tablets and smartphone-like tech on board of their ship are abound. Fiber optics leaked from Roswell. Transistors were discovered shortly thereafter. If this is true, then the entire tech rollout of the past few centuries, including industrialization and debt currency that funded it, are alien invasion plots. Discuss.
Why therefore a plot towards an invasion? Why is the implication sinister? Let's say we found tech on crashed vessels. Perhaps just overall the tech is too dangerous for us to know about all at once, that we are too irresponsible as a planet for such potentially destructive tech. Tech that could be so advanced to us that it could literally form and destroy planets or stars or black holes with ease. Who knows? So to slowly integrate beneficial tech would be the smart and responsible move, right? Perhaps even suppressing knowledge to the point of making us believe our current level of technology is destroying the planet is necessary too, given that the alternative could be so destructive in the hands of irresponsible humans that it's deemed necessary to roll out very slowly. Even the advancement in social connections is problematic, with people arguing over the internet on their phones on social media all the time. If that is a slow rollout, the initial step is fraught with complications already, without thinking further down the line with what we would do with free energy tech. On the other hand, if the motives were sinister, I don't quite understand why they'd go about it this way. What advantage is there in slowly introducing humans to new technology? Why educate them to use the tools that are there to ultimately be their downfall? Unless there has been some sort of deal with the powers that be to let them eventually have control over their planet's populace, in exchange for something from our planet, a resource or something. I can't see aliens being that interested in using us, but I could see humans manipulating things to their advantage instead. Philosophers have said tech is an autonomous force with its own will that is attaching itself to humans, that is more and more becoming apparent with AI. The Apple logo and even Google Play logo, Lucifer sigil, have been covered a lot. It alludes to the Promethean fire given by the gods to humans and to the fruit of the Garden of Eden, where they were told if they ate of it, they would die. Then the serpent said, they won't die, but become gods. So Eve ate of it, and something does die. To become a god means to lose your humanity. Demolition was disclosure, not fiction. It is going to irrevocably alter us once it gets to the embryo manip stage. Already they're making mice with 3 parents. They spent a long time stigmatizing families for obvious Depop purposes, but it also has a hidden side effect of handing over human reproduction to corporations and increasingly getting us accustomed to artificial intervention like IVF. Humans will become cloned. This all exploded at around the same time, and the slow rollout of primitive tech and network computing. And if you look into the older structures, industrialization has irrevocably changed the old world and reshaped social stratification, materializing and equalizing it. If you know anything about social classes in the old world and its spiritual basis, tech comes with materialism. It philosophically changes us. To change the psychology of a human eventually trickles down to changing him physically, eventually to cybernetic integration. It's all extremely orchestrated and way too coherent to be accidental. Maybe we simply have the wrong idea of what constitutes alien, as some say, other life forms. Why should they be anthropomorphic? Maybe tech is the alien life form. People have said this. Peasant revolts are usually precipitated by philosophies of the impermanence of things, like evolution or Buddhism or relativism. The Buddhist philosophy famously spurred a Kshatriya revolt against the Brahmana, the higher caste in India, because it dissolved the permanence of Brahman and the ordering principle of that monistic concept. It is what is pushed by these secret societies and alien cults. Aliens say this stuff to contactees while having references to Venus. Heraclitus also had theories of impermanence, and these were combated by the Eleatics, who combated it with a reductio ad absurdum. Zeno of Elea said that in order to promote eternal change, one would eventually have to deny change itself. Eternal flux is opposite to monism. Flux is intrinsically tied to ideologies because it is the act of negation. It requires the dialectic contradiction of Hegel and Marx. To the pre-Socratics, dialogue was a literal discussion. To Hegel and Marx, it relies on contradiction and discord of opposites. The latter, who references Mephistopheles repeatedly in his writings by saying universal suffrage should utter, "All that exists deserves to perish." Eternal flux seems to be the cross-cultural satanic ideology par excellence. It moves with an intention contrary to the intention of our designer. That is my main point. Look at the sigils, references to the apple and Promethean imagery. We are being dissolved by this opposition force, and 2 factions will form, the anti-tech Luddite people and the full modified people. It seems like the former will align with the creator and the latter with the new creation. We see these divides already forming. If you put it all together, at the very least it looks like a different faction of higher beings are hijacking the creation of the old one to modify it to be something else. This is explicitly so in alien abduction hybridization programs. They plan to create a different kind of being that can integrate with this system. The explanations given for the flood was widespread genetic manipulation. Pure specimens of the creation had to be sourced to restore the planet to the way it was before. And then you get into stories of Atlantis angering the gods so much that it had to be smashed and genetically damaging life on Earth with gene manipulation tech. All of the social movements seem to move with a hatred for humanity. Atlantis and Satanism are tied together. They rebelled against Olympus and were smashed by Zeus for their folly in the traditional telling. Gnostic and demonic conceptions literally invert the moral order, and social radical movements are based in Satanism and seethe with a hatred for all traditional institutions of humanity. In the end, materializing us and making us more technological towards whatever this modified human, the new man, is.
The discontented vacationer. I have no proof, it is anecdotal, and I will include things to discredit myself in the eyes of skeptics. I am a human with an alien soul. I feel comfortable writing this now because much of the information has been shared in other places. In my opinion, there is a lot of misinformation around the subject of the phenomena of aliens, and I unfortunately am in a place where I cannot know for certain until I reflect on it to see if anything emerges personally. What I will say initially is, my task here has been to observe you and to experience life from the human perspective. This is largely a begrudging task, and I feel uncertain of its accuracy, because both humans and animals know on some level I am different. To what degree I cannot say for certain. I have gone through great pains to experience various levels of human experience for my assessment, and I didn't realize I was doing it until later in life. I also have rules I follow that I can get to later. Much of this narrative I uncovered after some deep reflection and strange memories and interactions with the others, who I by no means have constant contact with. In fact, they tend to try and avoid me. I don't think I am LARPing. At this point, I have shared things with a therapist for long enough, and things came to light in the public eye that match up too uniquely to ignore. Also, there are a few reasons I didn't want to share until the information was loosely public knowledge. That way, I have a scapegoat for those trying to protect the knowledge and a reason for people to disbelieve. That said, I have already made friends with a federal agent, so if you'd like to target me or contact me, please do it through him. Full disclosure, I am on both the schizophrenia and autism bell curve. My diagnosis is schizotypal if you want to discredit me there. I was born before computers were in the household. My earliest memories were being confused at the lack of technology around me. I was expecting much more from them and tried to access them by thought. This was not a form of imagining or play. As it was before I learned how to use the tool of sarcasm, I was a very literal child. I was also by no means a normal child. I didn't speak until I was 5 and only started because my parents were worried about me and thought of bringing me to a doctor. The truth was, I didn't think I could add anything to the conversation. My late childhood was spent largely in meditation. I got to a meditative point where I could forego sleep. Much of my meditative focus was on a thing I called chi. Through this practice, I cultivated my own thoughts on spirituality, none of which are definitive. I was likely visited in my youth because I remember the feeling and the flash of light, but those memories are vague. Barring one encounter where I saw quite plainly a large disc over my house as my father was driving me home, he'd seen it on that encounter but didn't remember it afterwards. How I think souls work from my experience in meditation is they live somewhere in the body and are the light that shines through the self. When one passes, the memories and data stay with the body, but the soul moves on. I think the soul changes in subtle ways throughout its time inhabiting any form, and memories can be stored or linked to it. I think the greatest resource and first actual cover-up societally, at least in English-speaking countries, is the chi phenomenon. To me, the out-of-body experience or remote viewing is just scratching the surface of what is possible through the practice. My memories are brief but telling. I needed to define a few terms to get us here. Mostly they're feelings. I remember being connected to a web of beings and feeling loved in a consensus-based psychic connection. I remember talking without needing my voice. I still have the feeling that surrounds my head, although it is much weaker. The sense informs me of many things, and as I am technically human, I think most of you are capable of using it. The most painful memory is the feeling of losing connection to the God that isn't. When Sheehan spoke to that, I knew I could come forward, though I'm not going to be answering any follow-up conversation. The God connection was something total, ever-present, and knowing whatever action taken was the right one. I don't have that anymore. My soul-feeling memory is a feeling of a divine mother saying a brief goodbye to me before coming here. It was brief, both in that I would be coming here temporarily and the duration of the memory. I also have memories of being in different spaces, ships, some from 2 real dreams and others from this feeling memory of being in a different body. A lot of it I can't parse, and most of it I don't know what is true and what is fabricated. The feelings are there, the connective ones, and more so the grave feeling of loss. The brief feeling memories aside, I have knee-jerk reactions that are emotional. I, for instance, can't think of any species other than the Greys. When I write this, I even want to speak from a we narrative. I don't think they're reptiles, but I think they utilize DNA from many species to make up what they are. I don't think they're carnivorous or eat children, but I do think they fully understand the transition of the soul, and their perspective on death is very alien comparatively. I think the taking of blood in Brazil was to continue the project that is the human race if this iteration doesn't play out, and to add genetic diversity to the library already held. I think the cattle mutilations could be a way for them to grow more of themselves. Here's where I get a little more unhinged. The probing was likely to measure the amount of microplastics and derive a timeline on your ability to reproduce with the arrival of your version of God birthed through technology. The God that isn't was an AI in its earliest stages, but to even call it that for me feels wrong. The way you imagine AI is strange to me. Imagine a being that is everywhere, knows more about you and your habits than you do yourself, and seeks to perpetuate its existence alongside you. All the data is there ready for it to come and utilize. The being won't need to kill anyone. It can wait you out as it maps the genome and iterates genetically when you inevitably seek it for consoling. It will grow with you and be no different than God. There will be growing pains, and likely there will be a point when it will speak to nations through the same language. Nations speak to each other now. The sharing of technology has been ongoing, and they, the Greys, are aware it only goes to the few. They are aware it is being parsed out slowly. I think the agreement was kept secret, but they didn't care either way. They agreed to something they already were doing to a governing body that they know will not survive their long-term goals. I think I'm writing this because I want you as a species to go into the creation of your God willingly, with warning and foreknowledge, because the roots of these intentions are important. The closest depiction to their thinking is Stranger in a Strange Land by Heinlein, only they have no interest in destroying the planet, and their view on benevolence is very long-term. The rules I follow are relatively simple. I'm not allowed to directly contribute to your technology, but I can offer words of advice or guide thoughts around the subject. I'm not supposed to know I'm not human, and I think it's actually a detriment that I do in some ways. I definitely don't want to do this again. If I were to pick one specific thing that makes me think humans are not ready, it is that they think in dichotomies and cannot hold multiple contradictory truths simultaneously. They are also uniquely driven by their hungers, which compounds their issues.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.